Welcome back to another episode of Digging Deeper Ag Chats with Alan. Backed by popular demand today is stock agent Morgan Davies, who returns for his second round on the podcast. In this episode, Morgs gives us the lowdown on the current state of the cattle and sheep markets, unpacking how recent rain events, seasonal shifts and buyer behaviour are shaping prices and supply. We're also going to dig into how global tariffs, especially from the US, might impact local producers and why our industry is taking it all in its stride. Plus, Morgs breaks down the Auction Plus platform, how it works and when it's most useful, what to watch out for whether you're buying or selling. It's a timely and practical listen for anyone involved in livestock right now. So grab a cuppa and let's dive in. Welcome back to Digging Deeper. For his second guest appearance by popular demand is Morgan Davies. How you going, Morgs?
G'day, Al. G'day, listeners. We are getting some followers. I've had a lot of comments about our last podcast, Al. No problems with you. There was a lot of criticism of me, though. So
we're an Elders auction shirt. I'm sure it's going to come thick and fast for you. But tell me, what have you been doing in the last month? I heard you picked up a coaching gig.
A coaching gig? Football, junior footy?
Yeah.
Coaching the mighty Lindenow under 11s. Second year doing it and thoroughly enjoy it. Actually, it's fantastic.
A few numbers on the track?
Yeah, the boys are looking fresh. First game this weekend. So we'll take it to Lucknow and go our hardest.
No, very good. And what KPIs you got for those boys this week?
Oh, we got plenty. We go the other way. People say let kids have fun, but we do that, but we put in KPIs or key performance indicators to make sure that we're trying our best. And that's good. The kids respond, for sure.
Yep. Good to see footy back this time of year.
I think everyone's missed the footy, I think, in the off-season. It's great to have it back.
Yeah. No, very good. All right, let's get onto the subjects that you're brought in here for. Markets. Where are we at with the market, sheep and cattle?
Last time we spoke, I think we saw things all trending along pretty well. It was just after the calf sales, and we'd had a very successful calf sale. Again, the following week was the Bensdale Weaner sale, and probably in a lot of instances, everything just trended a little bit cheaper. That's not uncommon. There is a lot of cattle sold in March. And bearing in mind, it's also stayed quite dry. Not here in East Gippsland. We got pretty significant rain since then. We've had rain every week since then. But, the Western District and South Gippsland and the North East and the Mallee, everyone's sort of starting to sweat on a rain. So
leave it up in the hills. We go a bit up in the hills. It's dry up there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, before this last rain event, I think, it looked pretty dire around Amio and various parts of Benambra. They have had some solid rain there. Some cockies tell me 100 mil, some said about 20 or 30. So if we meet in the middle and work on that, but I think the Tambo looked pretty fresh and invigorated today, so that's positive. So I think someone got some rain up there anyway. Talking
about rain, East Coast, they've been pretty hammered pretty hard.
Yeah.
Is that going to affect us down here in Victoria?
In terms of the price,
supply?
Yeah, look, I think through general Queensland there's been a lot of rain as well. So the central Queensland, central western Queensland, there's a lot of cattle held out there. Biggest thing is there is significant rain there, and it's going to stop the flow of a lot of cattle that were getting dumped because it was quite dry. So I think that is going to help. I think it's going to assist. We've seen that already impact the market already short term, and there's a sense of urgency from processors to put those cattle together and buy them again, which is good. So we have seen that trend in the marketplace. It could be for two main reasons, just because the flow of the cattle stops, so there's less cattle on the market, but also because there is a bit of an urgency to keep kill chains and everything going. So that certainly happened. It's been pretty evident this week, and we've seen that in the marketplace. There's been some significant uplift in most types of cattle, which is good.
Do we see a bit of cattle, young cattle moving up that way?
No, a lot of cattle. There's been a lot of northern orders coming and going back into Queensland since January, probably more than there has been in the past. And I think there's been, in various parts, there's been some pretty good seasons. It's just in sort of central western, which they tell me, my sources tell me, it floods inland and goes into the air catchment. That's where a lot of that water is going. It's not going coastally, it's going inland. But feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but that's where my homework's been. I've put a bit of effort in finding out where the water is actually going, and a lot of it's going inland into the air, which is significant too. So there is a past history theory that the rain in the Eyre Peninsula does help the East Coast for rainfall over the next year or two. So, who knows?
That's prediction number 2, so we'll be able to track that along. It's all recorded. So what's happening let's do some forecasting. What's happening now that we have had rain down the east coast? We're still dry in the west of Victoria. Where are we looking in the next sort of month, 6 weeks?
Yeah, look, it starts to get cold, doesn't it, at some stage? Usually you got a pretty peak growth period up until sort of Anzac Day. That's the rule of thumb. And then after that, a bit of cloud coverage, sits in the Western District, and things get cold and wet and damp. So hopefully they can get growth and it stays mild there and they can get a bit of a season, but it is pretty tight over there. But yeah, they're generally concerned because it's probably been 2 years now since they've had a good break. So we do hope that our neighbours over there in the Western District get a rain. Again, South Gippsland, which affects us a lot. Our big brother that comes and buys a lot of our restocking cattle and sheep and various other products out of here, we need them to have a rain too. So there is issues there too, surface water and everything else in my travels. I'm born and bred down there, so I've been down there, and no one's really jumpy yet, but it's not far away. They need a general rain to fill a few dams for sure.
Yeah, I heard the first time in a long time someone bought water for the house actually down that way, so they run out of water for the house. They're starting to get a bit desperate when they're buying water for shower and cups of tea. So what about the sheep job, Morgs?
Yeah.
How's the sheep dog tracking along?
Well, in terms of sheep and lamb, I think the lamb job is bouncing, as predicted. Numbers are starting to subside. Heavy lambs, $8 to $8.50 in the marketplace. Everyone's wanting a heavy lamb at the moment.
Stores are still pretty strong at the minute.
Well, stores are sort of, $3.50 to $4 for a store lamb live weight. $4 being a really good second cross lamb, Bear Shaw, Mickey Bouse and Tidy. $3.50 for a Merino White Suffolk or Merino Dorset cross lamb with a bit of wool on it.
Yeah.
So that's the various. If you put a weight on your lamb and you put that value next to it, that's about what your store lamb's worth. And I think at that, the buyers that are buying them will make a quid. But yeah, $3.50 for a 39 kilo lamb brings them out at $140. I think it's all right for everyone, really. Yeah.
The finishers as well as the growers.
And cull sheep, they're saying a big uplift in that this week. So that could be due to rain and everything else. But cull sheep look pretty solid, $4 to $5 on a lot of those sheep. So everything's pretty positive there in the sheep market. And it's good to see because it's fluctuated a lot in the past 6 months. And it seems to do that, those massive swings, which is just numbers driven a lot of the time. One week there's a pair of numbers and the next week everyone holds off and then buyers have to pay a little bit more and then it sort of floods the market again. So
I've seemed to hit all the troughs lately when I'm selling cull sheep. Hasn't been good either. So
yeah, well the big difference is a $20 swing on a cull, you say $80. Market drops 20, it's quickly worth 60, isn't it?
Now, talking about selling, we've had a few questions come in about Auctions Plus. Tell us about Auctions Plus. Is it a thing that we should be looking at up here in East Gippsland, or are we too far away?
No, not at all. Auctions Plus is just another arrow in the quiver that a good agent uses. It's not a silver bullet. The cattle make what they're making anyway, but it gives them very good exposure. There's certainly value in Auctions Plus for a marketable product, be it a cow and calf. It's easier to sell your cow and calf on the place than it would be to have truck a cow and a calf into the sale yards and sell it. But they have to be decent-sized lots. They need to be assessed correctly, and they need to be priced responsibly.
Yep. So tell us the process. I've got 25 cows with calf at foot.
Can I get to sell them?
Yep.
Can we put them on Auctions Plus?
That simple?
No, so there's an assessor, right? And there's what are they? Graded assessors. So 1, 2, 3, level 2, level 3 is the alerting assessor.
Yeah, you're a graded assessor then, obviously.
Yeah, I'm a graded assessor. Yep. There's a couple in the town. Yeah, and there's a level 3, level 2, level 1. So if you're assessing a lot of cattle and you're doing big, high volume jobs and, say, corporate jobs, elders roll out our level 1 assessors that assist, and they do a great job. And they're very, very good at, they know their product, they're elite at their assessments, because agents can come under scrutiny for missing things. So we do have to be pretty spot on with our assessment. So that's the first thing you have to do. You have to assess your stock correctly. So if you say you're buying an Angus cow, selling an Angus cow on Auctions Plus, it is an Angus cow. It's not an Angus cow with a quarter Friesian in it. Or it's not an Angus cow with a fleck of short-on through it. You have to assess the temperament. You have to assess the weight. You have to assess the mills. You have to assess the age. You have to assess everything. You do that, you video it, and every Friday there is a cattle sale. And just like across every district has a sale yards. This is just an online sale yards, and people can assess it. And there's a lot of followers of Auctions Plus that only buy on Auctions Plus, but it also goes the other way too. There's a lot of people that prefer to go to a cattle market and buy cattle, and certainly for weaners and steers and heifers, we've got South Gippsland down the road. We've got 50 to 100 people that come to our cattle markets every week to buy cattle. You'd be silly to miss those people in your marketplace all the time. But if you're selling a cow and calf or a preg-tested in-calf female or something like that, I think it's got great value. But it's horses for courses. Everyone can sell whatever they want on Auctions Plus. And if you don't sell them, they stay on your place and you get a free go the following week. Then after that, you need to assess them again. So it is good, but it's just like the market. They make pretty similar money.
Yeah, rightio. And what about buying? If we're buying off it, do we buy through an agent still or buy privately on Auctions Plus?
It just depends. Elders' terms are strictly payment before delivery unless the debt is undertaken by another agent or an approved Elders account is in place. So, yeah, best advice is to grab your agent, buy your product and book it to that agent and give them the heads up, and hopefully they settle for it and it all moves on pretty quickly.
And you guys would often have contacts over, and if we are buying from different districts, you could make a phone call and say, the cattle, what are they like?
Definitely, yeah. We do all that sort of stuff, ring the assessor and size up what their expectations are for the cattle, and we do that all the time. And it is a great process. Fridays is store sale day, bearing in mind in Bensdale we have our store cattle sales, and Thursdays at Leongatha, and then on Friday we have Auctions Plus as well. So we're always watching everything. Usually we're running around looking at our phones, making sure the cattle that we've got on Auctions Plus, because we do sell a few on it, are making the money or where it needs to be. So it's very common. It's very common to us anyway.
Yep.
But it is just another arrow in the quiver. It's just another tool that we used.
And it often gets sold, like that cattle might get passed in on Auctions Plus, but you can still have a pathway to buy. The purchaser and the seller are sort of somewhere close?
Yeah, so they've got an hour. I think the rules are there's an hour after the sale, so the losing bidder can come up and meet the requested price, the reserve, and if they don't, you can negotiate on that. And usually on a Friday afternoon or a Saturday morning or a Sunday, you start fielding a few text messages anyway. So it is amazing who looks at what you're trying to sell, and they may not bid on it, but they're always interested in trying to buy it after if it doesn't make that money or something. So you can always get a result on Auctions Plus. It's just a bit slow.
I reckon I've watched probably 1,000 sales on Auction Plus, and I bought 2 rams off Auctions Plus. So
what they say, no rams, no lambs.
Yeah,
so it's good, Al.
What happens if something walks off the truck and it's not what we expect?
Yeah, so if it comes off, you have to call your assessor and just go through it again. So be it if it wasn't on assessment, I think there are negotiation time frames and delivery protocols and everything else that you have to hit. But the key to being a good assessor is just assessing what you see and just being upfront, because if it's not as quoted, you have every right to send it back.
It doesn't happen too often, I'm assuming?
There's always been a few headaches on it, regardless of whether it's wrong or right. Sometimes cattle start calving early or late. Cattle in delivery can get pink eye or various other things. So say you assess them on a Friday, you sell them the next Friday, and they picked up the following Friday. It's 14 days. Cattle can have health issues and things, so it's never perfect.
All right. Let's move on then. If you do want any more advice, call Elders and they'll walk you through the process of Auctions Plus buying or selling. Tariffs. Today we're recording, I think it's the second big announcement of tariffs. What's your take on it with the tariffs from America?
Yeah, well, I talk to Donald Trump all the time. And he
got a direct line.
Direct line to him. He's genuinely concerned about what a little stock agent in Bensdale's thinking.
I can imagine.
Which is good of him. But in all seriousness, I think there's not much we can control about that. It comes to this time of year every year for the past 4 or 5 years. You roll into May and there's always a panic about something. Now, there was foot and mouth that was going to enter the country and completely blow the cattle market apart 3 years ago. There was COVID. Remember that? COVID? It was a while ago now, but that was going to destroy the world.
Yeah.
What do they say? If you think you can't change the world, just go and eat a bat in Wuhan.
I haven't heard that one.
No, it's profound.
Right.
Yeah, I think I made that up. No, but there's foot and mouth, there's lumpy skin, there's tariffs, there's been various other problems that hit us in the face year in, year out, and we seem to adapt to it pretty quickly and change and forget about it in 2 months' time. So my advice is stick to what you can control. We can't control what Donald wants to do, nor what Xi Jinping wants to do. So if it's a 10% tariff, I think it'll be handled and blinked at and rolled on. And the cost of what the Aussie dollar compared to what the US dollar is and the cost of value of beef isn't a lot. So a 10% tariff here and there, I think the processors I've spoken to, they've just said, we'll just factor it in and keep rolling. We might try and buy cattle a bit cheaper or whatever, but that's price and time frame.
People have still got to eat, and are they in a rebuild over there?
Yeah, I think their cattle, their beef's making more than it's ever made over there, and it looks pretty extreme money in comparison to ours. Like around COVID times and things like that, like our beef got to the dearest in the world, and then the Aussie dollar sort of dropped back, and then the cattle market collapsed, and now it looks pretty priced accordingly. So people will be the US, and the numbers going into export are increasing every year. Our processors and kill space are increasing every year too. So the US are a massive customer of Australian beef, but they're not the only one either. Like we have some major customers around, be it China, be it South Korea, which is massive, a big absorber of a lot of Australian beef, and various other countries as well. So yeah, it'll affect us, but on that types. But I think 10% or 15% will get washed out pretty quickly.
So we'll just look back at it in 18 months' time and go, what were we worrying about?
Yeah, yep. And if I come asking you for a job, it's gone bad.
Yeah, real bad. I think that people have still got to eat, and sometimes it's just politics get played at the high level, which can have a big effect on us. At the end of the day, we've got a pretty desirable product, I think. So yeah,
and you talk about the floods in central Queensland. I saw someone saying, someone said there was 1 million cattle that had been washed away, and then I saw yesterday it was like 1,000 cattle being washed away, and so everyone can panic and throw these things into the media, and then everyone jumps up and down. But until we can actually do the correct mathematics behind it and look at it and stop and breathe and watch it in the cold light of day, I just think we all need to be a bit rational and just understand where we're at.
Yeah, the calming words of Morgan Davies put you all at ease. Very good. Now, our last question for this podcast is, what is something you have learnt that has surprised you?
Yeah, what's something that's learned that surprised me? Again, I just think that it just keeps surprising me, the difference in Victoria in the climatic conditions at the moment. I'm driving through the Western District. I was there last week, and how dry it looks, and then how good it is over here is incredible. So enjoy the good season, East Gippslanders, and the great start that we've got, and make the most of it. And one day it'll turn, and we'll be on our knees over here in the Western District to be pretty good. So I think just what I've learned is Victoria is a pretty big place, and it's a pretty big contrast anyway. Enjoy having a good season and make the most of it.
Yep, make hay while the sun shines, so to speak. Morgs, thanks very much for coming in. Time for a beer. It's a late one tonight, and time to start moving those magnets around again.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks, listeners, and go the mighty Lindeno Kittens.
A big thank you for tuning in today. And remember, if you have a question about today's episode or a topic you'd like us to cover, reach out to one of our many platforms and join the conversation. We're here because of your passion and commitment to agriculture. Together, we can build a stronger farming future.
This podcast is made possible by the Future Drought Fund Regional Drought Resilience Planning Program, co-funded by the Victorian and Australian governments.